Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Mike.
Dylan? We talked about Sunburn updating last week, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
It would seem repetitive to say Sunburn update again this week. Wouldn't it? It'd kind of like be like, they just did that last week.
It would, unless they did.
They did.
They did.
They did.
Okay.
Well, they had an update that was so big, it spread out across multiple weeks.
So this wasn't just a point release. This was
spewed updates into multiple calendar ranges. Update spew all over the place. So this is we're still talking 20XX.
Sounds like a huge natural disaster
We're still
at that
talking
point.
20XX. I don't think that John got my memo that this build is 20XX. I think he's still calling it 2.0.18. We're working on that. We're getting a correction. Top men are on it. What else did 20XX add to it? Character controller. Now, character controller is a little code thingy. Okay?
Is that a technical term?
It is. It's a dongle. It's a widget. It's a interface. It's a hook in. It's the mains. It's the holes you plug into. You hook into.
I'm envisioning this working like a power outlet. Like, you have
exactly.
to.
That's what the mains would be. That would be the British way of saying the power outlet. They have the mains. We just have power over here. But what this is it lets you hook in and say the player can control this object. And here's how. Here's the properties that let this object be controlled by the player. So you're not wiring up code to this. You're going into your object and flipping some switches and setting some magic properties to say the player can interact with this. And it behaves in physics ways this way, and it does these kind of properties and things. This is another awesome thing about the Sunburn engine bringing more than just, some lighting and pretty graphics, which it does excellent at. But it has a lot of things in there. You combine the player input tools in Sunburn with the character controller, with the mapping, with the rendering. Like, we're fucking out of a job. Like, you don't need developers anymore. We're wasting space, Designers don't need us anymore.
That's kind of a stretch.
They can go and get artificially inseminated by Sunburn and have their own game babies. We're becoming extinct.
First you started out making it sound like a natural disaster. Now it just sounds like some sort of crime, some sort of horrible sci-fi dystopian future.
It is. It is.
It is. Dystopian
you
future.
Can't tell the difference between, like, the designer built it in Sunburn or a developer made it. You're like the fucking Blade Runner of video game frameworks. Like, you're sitting there and, like, giving it 20 questions, trying to catch it in a lie, and you don't know! Like, the new replicants are so fucking awesome, you don't know. You can't tell. They've got implanted memories. Sunburn has implanted memories.
I think you just implied that Sunburn could pass a Turing test.
Like Sunburn, updates spewed all over the place, so have my metaphors. Just metaphor all over the place.
People are dying, they just
can't.
They're trying to swim, but it's breaking down the levees. And what?
Now, I think not all this can be my fault, because John writes in there, sounds easy. We've made it even easier. You can do it in code, too. So if you want to, you don't have to go into editor and hook up the properties. It's like, what, screw your editors. I like Vim, man. I like entering into insert mode. I like telling my editor I'm about to type some code. Get fucking ready. Here comes some code, bitch. Get into code ready mode, okay? And then I like saying,
I'm hoping you're talking about like a Vi plugin or Vim plugin for Visual Studio. No one's actually writing
It exists. It is out there, and I know it is out there. There is a visual of you can get that. That exists. That is real. That is fact. You can get this.
Yeah, I know.
These are facts.
Visual Studio plugin, yes, I know that.
You can get a Vim Visual Studio plugin, and then you can tell it, like, prepare, baby, for my code. Here it comes. I'm in insert mode. And then enter some code. Just type in some code and wire up the player-controlled objects so you can do them dynamically. Because, let's face it, you're probably going to generate monsters dynamically. They might interact with the player, might try to slap the player around a little bit, might get shot by the player, That's monsters. That's what they do. That's what goes on. So, you can do all of that in code. You don't have to use Vi. It's totally optional. It's up to you. It's Sunburn, man. Sunbird's like, you know what? I don't give a shit. Do it in code. Do it in the editor. Do it in the nice visual tools we make. We don't care. You're just going to be awesome. That's what's going to happen. If you want to be awesome, go check out the Sunburn Gaming Engine from the guys over at synapsegaming.com. Okay, welcome to the show. I don't know if I'm going to top that for a while. I think that's a pretty good ad.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've had 2 updates.
I think I
you
should get an
have like
award.
lots of fresh content.
I think I should get an award for that ad. I think a dramatic interpretation award or something. What do they give? Do you get Oscar nominations?
So what you're
for
saying
awards?
is that's
An Addy, a Webby?
so
Can I
what
get a
you're
Webby?
saying is that was a put on. The whole thing was a put on.
I'm saying like everybody involved did excellent. Team effort. These guys made a great engine, and I pimped the hell out of it. And together, the sum is greater than the parts.
I don't have anything to
You know,
say.
anything to add?
No.
All right, everyone, welcome to the show this week. The topic this week that we're going to get into is going to be feedback, dealing with feedback, and how to work with feedback as a developer and advice there. And we think we might go a little long in that section, so we're going to try to shorten up the news section a little bit. So major fucking news happened this week.
Yes.
So we'll see how we go with that. I'm gonna... Well, first of all, any new games? You've been playing anything different, anything new lately?
I started playing World of Goo from the Android Humble Bundle.
Okay, yeah. Classic.
It's a physics-based game. It's the kind of game that I fired up all the games first of all, and one was kind of this reverse. I can't remember what the name of it was. I should bring it up.
The name of the Humble Bundle games?
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Anomaly HD, which was kind of this reverse tower defense game. Like, you were the people being herded through the tower defense.
So did you, launch, waves and, queue up tons of units like the tower defense and just say go? Or are you, controlling them directly?
I only played, a level or two. You start out where all you can really do is repair. So you have to kind of place your, figure out where to effectively use your repairs on your units. I didn't get too far because it was tower defense. I was kind of I'm not that interested in it. I moved on to, let's see, Edge, which is kind of a puzzler where you're moving around. It was really odd. It was isometric perspective, and controls were kind of odd on a touchscreen. I did finally get around to playing World of Goo. Hadn't played it before. It's the kind of game that on PC I probably wouldn't. I think I've bought a Humble Bundle with World of Goo before.
Yeah.
I just never fired it up because
I played a little bit of it. That's one of the games that I have played. I got a lot of the Humble Bundles and stuff that I haven't played. And it's pretty good. I've broken myself of the bundle. There's some Valentine's bundles and stuff going on right now, and it's just I don't see anything grabbing my attention, so...
Yeah, but this, it felt like, I don't want to sit down and get started on a PC game, but as far as a phone game, it's pretty easy to fire up and get into. I'm having a lot of fun with that. Since we discussed it last week, as far as, with the camera controls and Captain Dubstep and stuff like that, I did fire up Metroid and tried to get back, fired up Metroid and Mega Man 2.
Did you play Complete Metroid? Is that a game that you played, or is this one that you never played?
No, this is the first Metroid. I remember renting Metroid as a kid. I never finished it, but I'm kind of going back, and it's kind of interesting. I'm not, I've lost all my ability to play really tough platformers that I used to have, so it's more challenging than it was, but
I don't really think Metroid gets difficult until you're dealing with the actual Metroids. And that's near the very end, because they cling to you. And so once you get them on you, it's near impossible to get them off, and they drain life so frickin' fast that you really have to be careful about getting the Metroids on you. And it's almost like a hit them with the freeze ray and run around them. Up until that point, it's just careful platforming. It's not...
Yeah, again,
you can take your time through most of it.
Yeah. That's what I tend to have a problem with. Like, I end up getting ahead of myself.
You
And
get impatient.
yeah.
You watched the sequelitis, Castlevania 1 versus Castlevania 2,
Yes,
right?
yes,
With the
I
whole
did.
like rant of
That
like,
was actually why I picked this
Castlevania
up,
1,
because
you can't rush in. You have to stop and think about that.
they were talking about Castlevania 2, Simon's Redaction. Someone actually created a version of the ROM that is, improves a lot of the problems. But yeah, I watched that. Did you want to go into any more details on that?
No, other than like, I also didn't finish Castlevania 1 for that exact reason. Like, it was an incredibly hard platformer. I never really got that far in it either, because it was like, you died, that was game over, man.
Yeah.
Game over. You're going back to the beginning.
That's one thing I like about, Metroid. It's like you die and you come back, and you probably need to go pick up some health before
Right. And that kind of gets tedious when you really get a lot of health tanks. But,
Yeah.
I mean, overall, Metroid, a game I did enjoy. I didn't get frustrated with the platforming. But I did in Castlevania 1, and I never finished it, and I actually kind of like Simon's Quest. Like, that's kind of my favorite.
I had the same reaction when he was saying all this stuff. It's like, no, I like the grinding to a certain extent.
But it did have I mean, that video is really good for a game developer of, like, breaking apart some things and, like, okay,
Yes.
you're right. Like, that is kind of bullshit mechanic, and it's like the whip having a delay made sense in the first one as a design element, doesn't in the second one. But, stuff like that, though, I wonder how much of that is intent by the game designer. Like, the game designer sat down and said, okay, I'm going to make the whip delay slow to increase the difficulty that times real well with all this shit. Or it just came out that way, and that's just kind of the way it was made. And like you're looking into it more than exists. Like, I kind of wonder about that when I see some of these
I thought
analysis
the same thing.
of like these old Nintendo game classics as having done no wrong and be perfect.
Well, and every game is made up of explicit and implicit decisions. Things that you want to happen, and things just kind of come out that way, and you never think to tweak them. And yeah, I completely agree with you. It's not that you can't learn something from it, but I think how that realization is applicable to designing your own game, it becomes very easy to look at a game mechanic and say, based on everything I know, this is the right answer, where, it may in fact not be. It may not even be something that matters.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, I don't think I played much anything. No. I popped in Brand. I did.
Okay, I played a little bit of that. I played a trial.
Yeah, I played the trial of it, and
I've also been playing Evil Quest, but that's neither here nor there.
You finished it yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Well, we really shouldn't
just
spoil
now
that
got
one on there.
into
That one's
the
just
astral
a good.
plane. But,
Yeah.
That's what I mean. We've talked about it.
We talked a lot about it. It's a great game. Go get it. But I mean, Brand looks great and has kind of an idea and all of this, but it's reaffirming my idea that GameMarx start reviewing games in development and for developers. Before it's out, so you have time to change it, because it's like some of the choices made on the control scheme and the way the combat is, it totally ruins the entire game. Like, I don't know how your impression was of it, but like after about a minute, I was like, yeah, this is not. This is a great game, and look at all these levels and exploration. It looks kind of cool. I can jump all around. I'm going up in this castle. I get to pick one of three
It's 3D.
things. It's 2.5D.
Well, yeah, but it's a 3D engine.
But I mean, like the combat decisions of where you actually have to stand within the enemy sprite to reach them and hit them, because if you like stand back from them like you would, like say in Castlevania, you know, because it's very evocative of a Castlevania, and try to hit them, you won't reach them, and they can reach you. You actually have to run within, and like you're actually like, if you run into the enemy, I don't think it does any damage, which isn't intuitive.
Yeah. And
you run up to them to be able to hit them. The jump controls are bad. The platforming controls are kind of
the fact that it is a 3D engine was kind of weird for me, because as you move, it changes perspective. I guess if you're used to that,
and so it's I think possibly a great game ruined by some poor mechanics.
I wouldn't say ruined, but
developers probably got used to. And no, I mean ruined by the poor mechanics, because I think the average gamer that picks this up is going to be turned off by the control mechanics. It's going to be Inca blocks all over again. It's going to be the camera moves with the wrong stick, and therefore I don't like your entire control scheme, and I'm done with this. And it's gone, and it fades into oblivion. That first impression, especially on an indie game, because I mean they're decks stacked against you, man. You're an indie. They expect it to be crap. They think it's going to be crap, and
if you are crap,
the slightest confirmation of like, oh look, these controls are janky, your whole game is crap. Like I don't think that's the case. It looks like a lot of great effort was put into here, and it probably has some deep depth to it, and it's got this level up your own sword, choose your own path type thing, which sounds really cool. But the bad controls are probably why the indie gamer chick is all over the game, because it's like, that's the first thing you run into, and it's frustrating, and you're an indie, so you probably can't get that right, you didn't get anything else right. That's the leap I go to.
Yeah. Bring
on the next indie out of the pile of 2,600 titles,
I like I said, I kind of got used to it. I realized that it kind of seems to want you to rely on the dash attack more than you would think.
Yes.
And once you get that down, it's not bad, but you're still not going to get through a level unscathed, which means...
But, I mean, the problem, too, with the dash attack and that kind of thing was, like, jumping a platform tree, bop, 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 get up to the top of these 3 platforms, jump in air, hit the guy, but I can't land on the ledge because he's on the edge of the ledge. Fall all the way down, jump all the way up, take the second hit, jump all the way up. Like,
I ran into that. Also ran into a case, like I said, where it looked like I was going to make the jump from one perspective, but then as I moved over shift perspective, and I realized I overshot. Yeah, it's got issues. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was completely ruined, but I definitely think it has issues.
No. So what I'm saying is commercially ruined, like it's not going to enjoy success. It's another like another Alpha Squad, like I had at the beginning of the year.
Yes, I think that's a better...
Like you have some crippling bugs or game flaws, design flaws that people are not going to sit and give you the benefit. You're not Gears of War 4.
You are not Capcom.
Where I will be patient with you to get into it. It's not even Mega Man 9, where like I'm going to play this for 4 hours before I finally admit this is a piece of shit.
With some of my gripes, I have a feeling that it might be the kind of game that if I don't know the source material that I won't get, but that's hard to say. I may be giving it too much of the benefit of the doubt just because of that.
That's really what I played. I didn't even play much more L.A. Noire or make anything progress-wise in there. I did some Captain Dubstep work, nothing worth writing home about on Captain's Dubstep. Just clean up some of our debug code and get some of our stuff out. Just trying to get closer to releasing another follow-up video. I went and I checked on Dream Build Play today for last year to kind of reestablish the deadlines on those. So the Dream Build Play deadline is in June, seems like, last year. So open submissions in May, got to get your game in by June. So I think we're still good. We're plenty good on there. But I don't want to, rest. You don't want to rest on your laurels, and think that. And I've been kind of thinking like there's a lot of MVPs that say they're going to put out, developers that say they're going to put out Dream Build Play games and then never actually enter anything in the contest. Yeah. And I was kind of thinking it might be fun to make like a little quick WordPress site of like pledge, then Dream Build Play. I'm basically like, hey, I am so-and-so. Here is my game dev blog. I am pledging that I will submit this game with this design idea to that, and then
so like, you've just got a site that's full of pledges.
Post like updates or something, to that, but just kind of like a get together as a group and egg each other on of like, hey, if you're on the pledge site, then we need a weekly update from you. You have to have weekly updates on your progress. Come on, man, if you're gonna have a game in Dream Build Play, then you're serious. Then you need to have a weekly update. You need to have something, whether it was just I work out design docs, or I got code done, or I checked out this tool. I thought it might be neat just to set something up like that. It depends on how I get through this weekend. This weekend's got a lot of minor but messy to-do items. Some not so minor. I need to finish up the production on the Evil Quest video so that we can get those out. I think I have all the assets that I need to do that, so I just need to sit down and finish producing that. Of course, tax stuff needs to be handled, and that for me is several varied fronts. The different stuff I'm involved in, so I gotta get all that done. So it's not fun, but like it's the kind of thing of like, yeah, I'm gonna kick over here, shut down the giveaway GameMarx.com site, and have like the pledge site. No, Jim, of course I'm not talking about you. You, of course, have always entered the Dream Build Play contest like you said you would, right? And no, it's nice, far from the only one. And
the irony is, you could even make weekly updates and still not.
Well,
make
and I
Dream
think
Build Play.
there was a rise on Twitter. Like there's a growing crowd that wants to see Kissy Poo 2 Judgment Day. So the
My
reference.
child would play it.
The reference on that was Major Nelson. I didn't cue this up as news, but I guess since I brought that up, I'll just mention it. Major Nelson tweeted a poll, like, what do you want to see digital content? More movies, more Xbox Live Arcade, and that's what he said. More Xbox Live Arcade. He didn't say
he also
more,
had games
say
on
more
demand and
games.
game add-ons.
Yes, more game add-ons, more games on demand. He called it all out specifically, you know? And he didn't have an option for Xbox Live Indie games.
To be fair, Microsoft can't control the amount of Xbox Live indie games that hit the service.
That's true.
They have no control over.
True.
I think he just like forgot. It's not on their priority list. It's not on their radar.
So I just said, like, okay, this is some bullshit. Once again, you know, major slight to the indie service. Once again, you know, the service is dead. All that rumor is true. You know, it's like, here's another point. And I'm like, okay, I could tweet this and say, what the fuck? I could tweet this with some backhanded sarcasm on this. Or I can kick it up a notch in the trolling spectrum and create my own poll, which I did, and asked, why did Major Nelson forget to add Xbox Live Indie games? Which, ignorance. He doesn't know there are Xbox Live Indie games. Intentional. Xbox Live Indie games are dead, and he wants it to stay that way.
And he wants it to stay that way.
Yeah. I
like how last check that was
there
the
was
top
accidental.
vote.
He actually had it on the poll, and then a cat jumped on the keyboard. The word cat I was like rewording them so they would all fit without wrapping, and I deleted the word cat, and I was like, oh, I should proofread shit. And then the other option was vengeance, because he's pissed there's been no Kissy Poo 2 Judgment Day released. Which actually got like some traction, and I threw in there and jumped in there as I was talking on Twitter of like, yeah, and Cookie Cups, the unicorn, which is Kathleen, who is on Twitter, and I'm forgetting her handle at the moment. Somebody will help me out on Twitter on chat with what Kathleen's Twitter handle is. The manager, the former community manager, who's now, you know, working in XBLA, which, you know, props to her. That's probably a career jump for her and all that. That's the fact there's no community manager for Xbox indie games. It's not her fault. For all we know, maybe they eliminated the position and she was out of job and had to find to work somewhere else. You know, maybe she wanted to go on. I don't know. Don't know what the story is there. But I really don't care. It's like everybody's got the right to make the job and everything. But she was in there because she was community manager. They put her in the game. Occasionally, a unicorn, which is her avatar, pops up, and Ninja Harlot. That's it. Thank you, Jim. She pops up in there, and like if you catch Cookie Cups, it immediately fills the rainbow.
Correct.
Yeah. And so I was like, she should be Liquid Metal in Judgment Day. You know, she should be the Liquid Metal Kissy Poo. So I don't know if that's going to be a Dream Build Play submission, but drumming up interest for that.
I like how intentional got the top, you know, like, way to make us look like a bunch of tinfoil hats.
Yeah, it did. It did. Like intentional, like became like 55% of the votes ended up on intentional, of like 27 votes or something. Yeah. Mostly by jaded game developers who follow me that when I retweeted
exactly.
That saw it. Yeah. News. Xbox Live isn't growing, developer claims. I hate these titles. Like this like come on, just. stand up, man. Like, do some research on the title and, like, come back and, like,
Say the developers right or wrong, like make a...
Yes, do some journalism or something. Or
No, that's what journalism is nowadays.
Yeah, it's just
this
like...
person said
it's
this.
news that
I'm not
this
going to check
person
the
said
facts.
that. It's news that you said that.
Well, you don't want to appear biased.
Exactly. You don't want to, like, have any appearance of effort spent, but Chris Steele, Hypership Out of Control, good developer on the servers. Going on iOS, I kind of like Hypership Out of Control better on my iOS than I did. I think it's a great iOS shoot 'em up. I think you can get that for Windows Phone too, if you're one of the lucky 1 in a million owners of the Windows Phone. He basically has enough history from when he's released his games to show how there's just not trials anymore. There's just not traffic. Like, I can show you when it was the crazy dawn of the service and it was brand new and nobody knew it was there. It had more traffic to trials of the games than it did when after the new dashboard update. And it's just... I got a lot going on, but it's like I still kind of want to make that video that after watching how well the dashboard video went with 8,000 views and hitting joystick and getting out a little bit wider, I think if I was to sit down and do an extra credit style video and break down the issue, because the issue never really gets broken down clearly.
Yeah.
It's always like, oh, well, they just need to market more or something like that. It's like, no, you're not understanding. You can't find games right now. If you want to go find a good family game, you're fucked. You're not going to find a good family game on the indie service because you can't sort by that, and that category is never going to dominate the top sales. It's gone. Forget it. If you go in that mode, and it's also ignorant of the fact that crazy stuff has been done before. Buying ads on major sites, getting major press from Kotaku, getting covered in Penny Arcade, for crying out loud. Developers have come back and said, didn't matter in sales, but when I got selected for the random dashboard promotion, huge sales spike, Part of this is just Microsoft system in general. Like, there's a lot of hurdles. There's a lot of friction in buying something digitally, on, Xbox Live, period. I mean, you got the whole points thing, and the it's just not like cash from your account. And then they do a lot, and we've talked about that in the past, but, just lay out the video as like, this is it, man. And not only lay out the video, I watched a TED Talk. I forget the woman's name, but go on there and look on a TED Talk of like Anatomy of Great Speeches or something like that. And she basically like figured out a way of plotting speeches. And then noticed like all the great speeches. I Have a Dream and, JFK, sending people to the moon and Steve Jobs launching the iPhone. They had this cadence and this measurable pattern of delivery. And she's basically breaking that down of like, these are the masters of communication, and they did it naturally, probably. We have to learn, and it's crazy, because, Martin Luther King, Southern Baptist, and, like, his speeches are a Southern Baptist sermon, like, that's the cadence of the Southern Baptist sermon, at least the good ones, and it's funny how, like, that overlays with Steve Jobs. You wouldn't expect that at all.
Are you talking about like the cadence of the speech, or just the general cadence of the whole?
It's mapped in several dimensions, but in general, it's the cadence of the speech to the topic, and it's a constant game of this is what we have and it's awful, and this is ideal, and this is awful, and this is ideal. And this is awful, and this is ideal, and that speeds up, and then also how it works in relatable. Like, also how, like, you're right, I have that problem, and I shouldn't, I mean, it's, as you listen to I Have a Dream, you listen to the full speech, okay? Like, the I Have a Dream part is at the very end. That's the climax that everybody knows. But if you listen to it, it's a very slow thing. It's a very talking about a government that has promised us and failed to deliver, that all men are created equal, and this doesn't exist, and it's just down there. I'm like, it's awful, but you know,
We can change that.
we should have a world, and then it's like utopia time, and then it's like, you know, we should have a world where every man is equal, where no one is judged on the color of their skin, you know, where anyone has a shot at the dream, anyone can, you know, own a company and run into the world. But, okay, well, I'm taking you back down now.
Okay.
You know? And it's like, I'm going to get you pumped on the roller coaster, and I'm going to speed up the iteration of the roller coaster to where the crowd's in a frenzy. You know? And the crowd's like whipped up and going along and like, yeah, you're right. You know, we should have all this. And then they're motivated and they're powered. And so she did that. And it got me thinking about, like, how I want to rewrite that script. The script's in my head still. But the script in my head was like, outline all of the issues and then outline the solution. And I'm like tossing that out now. And it's like the utopia is the indie world and the digital publishing world where anybody that wants to make a great game can make a great game. There's no barriers. And you as the consumer, you as the gamer, are just getting awesome, crazy games. You no longer have to worry about sequelitis. You no longer have to live in a world where genres fade out, because anything that begins to become a niche becomes a target by an indie developer and it gets served. And you should be having all of this. You should sit down at your console and just have the world of gaming at your fingertips and nothing in the way of marketers and all of that. And it's like, indie games should be that. Indie games should be a road to that. Instead, there's a roadblock of the existing publisher model that Microsoft doesn't want to upset because they're profiting muchly from as well, too. Like, that new world is risky to themselves, not just to the publishers. You know, like Microsoft is a publisher, and Microsoft has a lot of deals with these publishers, and in the console market, the Xbox 360 proved you can win your way to the top by exclusives.
Yep.
Go out and tie up every great game exclusive. At least if you can't get the game exclusive 100%, like Call of Duty, you can get all the map packs first. You don't need much to convince a gamer that you want an Xbox, not a PlayStation 3, because
especially with a
game.
Multiplayer game, you know, you get, you know, you get the
um,
majority of a market.
And
I
then
think
you
I'm
gotta convince the people for those exclusive
Yeah.
downloadables. Like,
I think I'm gonna have to do that. I think I'm gonna have to do. Like, I'm not gonna sit well until I've done that, because it's almost a mic drop for me on Xbox Live indie games. Because I don't expect Microsoft to change.
Yeah.
But at least I could say, like, I did this. I put this together. I can't write it in a blog post because it's not gonna have the same effect.
Yeah, but if you
I saw what the video did much greater than the last time I tried to, you know, raise awareness on stuff, and I'm like, that's it. That's the medium. I need to think about my message and apply some of this other stuff to it.
The difficulty I have with something like that is it is a mess now, but it's still by its very nature going to be a mess. Like, there's not necessarily a utopian fix. It could be so much better, but, you know.
But right, well, what you're pitching, what the art of that speech is, what the pattern of that speech is I'm not talking about my solutions.
Right.
I'm pitching the mess against the utopia, and you're like, I want my fucking jetpack. Where's my fucking flying car? You're right, I don't have these things.
Where is
And
my
then me
hoverboard?
going, but I have an iPhone that's on the way. Like, this is on that path. You know, like,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
you know, it's a little bait and switchy, but it's really like, I want you to buy into the dream. You know? I have this dream. I want you to buy into the vision and the dream. Don't worry about the middle step here that we have to work through. You know, it's almost secondary. If I can get you whipped into the frenzy for the dream, fight for the dream. You know, that's the message that they walk away from.
Yeah, I think it would be... It would make an impact, but I don't know that it would, with, you know, maybe on the web, but I don't know how much it would change, especially since, you know, indie games has a long way to go.
Well,
to
and I don't
being
think
a
it would change
utopia.
anything. I don't think it would change anything. It would highlight
What's wrong?
that we should raise our expectations. You know, like when the next Xbox is coming out, when the next PlayStation comes out, when the Wii U comes out, of like, Man, this thing is not on board with the digital This thing is not on board with the digital utopia that I deserve. You know.
And the issue, I guess, there too, is that you're not looking for a checklist of things to change, but you're saying, this needs. Microsoft has potential here with this service. They just need to completely rethink
digital utopia is, there's not a used game system in the digital world. Not without a lot of support from the publishers, and they're not looking to do that, and indies probably not either, because they don't have the ability to do used DRM license transfers or whatever, on the platform. But overall, the price should come down because it's digital distribution versus boxed retail distribution outlet. There's less cost. The cost should come down, and you know what? If the cost is down, if I could go into Games on Demand and buy $5 to $10 games on demand, which are really old Xbox titles. The same $5 to $10 games I can go into GameStop.
You no longer care that you can't resell them.
And the publisher and the developer, maybe most developers are not getting money off that sale, but they get a fixed up front work for hire model. But maybe that changes. But at least the money is going in the right direction. You guys don't have to complain hey, these used game sales don't help us at all, and, we just lose money because of them or something,
right.
Which I don't 100% agree with that argument. But it's well, you know what? You just provide a better digital service. You get a Steam up and going on Xbox, then I don't give a fuck. For me, it's great. You guys get up there and the developer can post their whole back catalog, and I can go buy Psychonauts on my Xbox 360. I'm down with that. I'm on board. But we're not sticking to our. We're gonna move through news quickly and cover. This is interesting. I'm gonna point a little bit out on this here. Blizzard's disputing Valve's trademark of Dota. Now, Giant Bomb got this headline right. A lot got the headline wrong, where Blizzard attacks Valve and Blizzard sues Valve. No, okay, guys, when you apply for a trademark, which you should think about doing any dev, it's about $300 in the US. You fill out some forms. There's a period where I actually have I've gotten a trademark, not for Funkworks, but for Codestock, the conference I do. You fill out the forms. And it's like $100 to $300, I think. There was a variable, how much money have you made with this trademark? And you do need to use it in commerce or have plans to use it in commerce or something too. There's some things on there, but they're fairly simple. You don't need a lawyer. You can kind of grok them just reading it. There's a period after that in which it goes posted out, open for comments. And then Blizzard basically has responded to the open for period comments saying Valve should not have a trademark on Dota. So this is not Blizzard saying we should have a trademark on Dota. This is not Blizzard saying we're suing Valve for trademarking Dota or infringing. We're telling the trademark office not to issue Valve a trademark on Dota because of blah. Blah is where I have issue with Blizzard.
Okay.
Valve should not have a trademark on Dota because it's been out for fucking 7 years or something. Defense of the Ancients has been out a while.
For 7, 8 years.
Yeah. Just too late to trademark, Valve. You didn't come up with that shit. That's out there. People are using it.
Free trade.
Yeah, exactly. You can't retroactively pull it back. This is where trademark law gets funny because it always has that in-commerce use attached to it. And then, they may be able to run a fast one by it because it's a free mod. Now, Blizzard's argument, one of their arguments in there, is that mods are governed under the EULA. And under the ULA, we basically own all content generated with our tools. Okay? So far, I'm it's kind of dickish, but okay, it's fine. That's your licensing for using your tool. It's your game. It's your art assets. That's fine. But Blizzard's extending that to say, thus, we also own the name Dota.
No.
Defense of the Ancients and all that. I'm no, fuck that. You own the creative, the compilation, the mod, you can't go off and sell the mod and the assets are yours that they used on it. But something like the name, the rules of the game, when they're changed a whole lot, like Dota is, all that, you don't automatically get ownership on anything because I mean, that really gets into a point of like, if I write a document in Word, does Microsoft own my poems now? You know, do I need royalties from Microsoft? You know, pay royalties to Microsoft? And it's like, no. And Blizzard, you release a tool for creation of this data format. Now, your licensed content's involved in that, and it's not Creative Commons or free use. So I understand that you have ownership in the final product because it's still your art assets, and it's a little bit funny. But I do not like this.
But you did not create English, therefore you do not owe the name.
Yeah, and so I don't believe that Valve has a claim to this name at all, but I don't want to see the court stand up and say
Valve now owes Blizzard
actually does have ownership on this because their EULA says anything created with their tools gets that. And that'll be interesting because this is not a suing in a court thing. It's a trademark office. So the trademark office will make a determination. And then I think it can be challenged legally in courts and other avenues. So we're not at that level yet. Blizzard's actually suing for that. It's just kind of fucked up. It's kind of fucked up that I would even try, really. As a company that does so many other things right, that they would do that, you know?
Yeah, especially, you know, as many successful games as they've had, you know, it doesn't seem, I mean, they stand to gain quite a bit,
and there's already, like, I think a dispute among the community that created it. Like two of the main guys or whatever that did the most seed code and got it kind of off the ground and all that. One of them works at Valve. One of them's creating the other's creating the League of Legends. And there's like a dispute on, like, no, I can use Dota too. You know, like, I can call my stuff Dota, dude, because, you know, like, I created that as well. And without a standing agreement in writing, you know, that there's some claim to that. So the fact that there's a dispute there, to me, Blizzard's getting this other guy with the League of Legends and letting him, like, hey, we're going to help you file this because you do have a claim to this, or we just don't want to see a trademark in general. Like, it's untrademarkable. Right. It's been out in public domain for 7 years. Okay?
That seems like the best option at that point.
It really shouldn't be held by anyone. Quick hit here. So this guy made this Super Mario Brother. Make sure the volume's off. I'm gonna hit play on that. This guy made this little Super Mario Brothers game where you're playing Super Mario Brothers, and let me mute our own stuff in here. You can't see it because of the frickin' ad. And it's probably pixelated all in hell and nobody can see it anyway. So what you're not seeing is like Ryu from Ninja Gaiden just jumps into Super Mario Brothers. Not only, it's not a sprite replacement. Like, you do all the moves. You have the ninja stars that he has. You have all the power-ups, and they work. And it's done for like 5 or 6 characters. 5 or 6 well-known characters can be switched out to Super Mario Brothers and then do their moves in the game. I gotta go get this, check this out. I think this is crazy awesome.
I think it's a Flash game, isn't it?
I think it's a Flash game, yeah. I think this is an awesome, like, if you're starting out and you want to be a game developer, this is a freaking great idea. I mean, really, like you can't sell this, right? Because of, you know, it's licensed merchandise. But to be able to put the mechanics of one game into another game is a little bit more than your base, like, skinning effort. And that's a good place to start, you know, in development, and just kind of get your feet wet into, like, the whole process without having to worry about, like, game design. You know, you're just doing this crazy little thing. So I just think it's cool. I just wanted to highlight that out there. It would not be a GameMarx podcast of recent note if we don't have some Zynga news. So I'm about to blow your fucking mind.
Zynga is the new Microsoft in terms of, like,
I'm going to blow your mind, Dylan. Your mind will be blown.
Okay.
Zynga has partnered with Hasbro to make a board game of Words with Friends, Hasbro being the company that owns Scrabble. Mind blown. Boom. Inception. Boom. Like, This is how bad Zynga has pantsed fucking Scrabble. That, like, the owners of Scrabble are like, okay, fuck it, we need to make a board game that just says Word with Friends, because people don't know that Scrabble is Words with Friends.
Oh, that's sad.
On so many levels.
Now, I wonder if it'll, like, have a rule, like, oh no, you can use your iPhone to go on the internet and look up any words that you want live during the game.
It just changes the dictionary rules.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck, there's no dictionary rules. It's Word with Friends. Go cheat the high hell, you know?
So what you're saying is it's a variation of Scrabble with
This is
alternate dictionary
This is
rules.
like Monopoly, and they're just changing the board.
They did change the board. There is a board difference between Words with Friends and... Words with
fair.
Friends basically upped the triple and double word score tiles and triple other tiles and all of that.
Okay, so in theory it's a little more fast-paced.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right.
It's interesting because, I mean, there was a game called Upwards that I remember playing a lot of. I didn't play as much...
That's played Upwards as well, yeah.
I mean, it added that new dimension, and that's totally fair, but this, yeah, if it's just a reskinned Scrabble, then... What?
Speaking of Zynga, Apple has banned some counterfeit clone apps. Now, they've gone in
Wow.
and they've banned...
Clones of Zynga, or clones Zynga has made?
No, not Zynga. Zynga's not actually banned. Nothing of Zynga has been banned.
Oh, okay.
This is Angry Fish level clones.
All right.
This is, I took your game, your screenshots, everything, and cloned it one for one, and put it back in the App Store, and named it Angry Birds with Fish, or some other type thing, so that when somebody would search, you could actually be confused as to, like, somebody might hit the wrong one thinking they're buying Angry Birds, type thing. They didn't ban too many, but it does kind of beg the question of, are they going to up this more and get into the Tiny Tower, whatever heights game that
'cause
Zynga's releasing?
At that point, you're touching on major developers as opposed to people who are basically just ripping off.
It seemed like these were
outright.
very clear, cut and dry cases of scams to cash in on something else. But it's good that they're doing that. I mean, it's good that they're going to target out absolute blatant ripoffs, the lowest of the low. But it's going to be interesting because, I mean, all the press and all the comments and all the reactions that I've read to this is like, okay, so you guys going to ban these games that aren't different from the other games except in art. Basically what Zynga's model is, you know, and
there is a potential for slippery slope, but at the same time, it's like I said on another podcast, it's almost like a lot of these games are commodities, and, you know, if you want something new, you'll play, you know, a lot of people will play anything, whether it's a rip-off or it's just whatever they find first, and you have to do something about that. You can't just let that go.
Of course, Apple, I haven't seen anywhere where Apple's giving any comment to that. I also have here this guy that worked at Zynga did like a stand-up routine. And he doesn't work at Zynga anymore, but it was making fun of the other developers, and it's not funny.
What type of stuff was he making jokes about?
Well, he was making jokes about, you know, hey, we rip off a game, and then we make money from it, which is different from all you guys out there, because you rip off a game and you don't make any money. And then, of course, he goes on.
Gloating about that?
He's a little douchey, yeah. And then he's going on
that
about,
may be his
like,
act. That doesn't
Tiny
make
Tower,
it right. Maybe
you
kind of a
know,
put on.
and Dream Heights or whatever is this clone, but they're both Sim Tower. And it's like, no, that's not the exact same thing. And the one he threw out too was like, well, you know, of course we got started with Farmville, which ripped off Farmtown, which ripped off Harvest Moon. And you play a lot of that. Do you agree that Farmville and Harvest Moon are like one for one? Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a genetic
They farm.
yeah,
but
there's a
that's
genetic
it.
pattern there, but those have been completely wildly adapted, different
Well, too social,
Harvest
too,
Moon is to
HTML.
Farmville what an A student is to the kid with the
Do
dunce
you want me to
hat
come
in the
back
back.
to you in a few minutes? Okay.
I had to PC it up in my head.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
And
that's
this is one who plays both of them.
But that's exactly what he related it to, because that's why I remembered it. I'm like, when he said that, I'm like, I know Cicely will not agree with that.
I'm going to throw this out here, though. If you're going to a comedy routine for nuance and subtly understanding all sides of an argument, you're going to get what do you expect?
Well, and I think on this part is like, for a guy, it's like, hey, I work with Zynga, and then to go openly out and do this comedy routine, and then just kind of, like, the comedy routine is making fun of the people who claim that Zynga's evil.
By admitting they're evil and so
And yes,
what,
they
they're
were
getting-
evil, but so what? You know, you guys ripped
I think
off
this is
too.
called hubris. Like, this is the point where you think nothing can hurt you.
Like, what I want to
to
see
the
was, like,
point-
is there a larger context to this video? Like, did I miss a start clip where he walked on and, like, yeah, you know, I do all this thing, but now I'm gonna play dumb Zynga employee man, you know, and like, is there a setup that I'm missing here? Is there context? Is there something that would make this closer to acceptable? But
Well,
I mean,
the
way he
comics
says
usually
things-
play their own straight men at the beginning there. Like, oh, no, I'm...
That's true.
yeah, it's...
What's his name does? Jim whatever? He's the guy that always mumbles with his inner voice?
No idea who you're talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
Carrie?
No, not Jim Carrey. He's bald, and he talks like about somebody in the audience, or he puts himself in the voice of the audience, of like,
Oh, I know what
Why
you're
is
talking
he-
about.
why is he doing this joke? It's not funny. Why does he
Bald
keep going on?
and...
Yeah,
Does he have a
One guy-
beard? Jim Gaffigan?
Jim Gaffigan.
Okay.
That's it. Yes, yeah. So he does his own straight man routine.
Like I said, you're trying to search for nuance and truth in a comedy routine.
Really smart comedy.
I'll put the link. I'll put the link in the show notes. You can go watch it. You can judge for yourself. I mean, like, is this the biggest douche in the world, or
There's one thing the internet loves. It's judging.
yes, judgment. Pass judgment, internet.
As quickly as possible. Efficiency.
Oh wow, it looked like something just worked on its own.
Oh dear.
It's working.
Oh
Excellent.
We're gonna talk about what's working on its own here in a second, but first, we have to talk about the big fucking news this week. This is the BFN. BFN, big fucking news this week. Double Fine. Now, I put this Double Fine Kickstarter in, I think I loaded this page about an hour ago. 1.4.
Refresh.
Here, I'm going to do a little page refresh act live, and they have now cracked, live on the GameMarx show, Double Fine has cracked $1.5 million. Alright, if you don't know what we're talking about, you don't read any gaming press whatsoever. Okay? But, to recap in case you don't read any gaming press whatsoever, and GameMarx is your sole source of gaming industry news.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Why would they do that? I don't understand. Who would be stupid enough to just, yeah. Anyway, so Double Fine puts up a Kickstarter with a video. Like, hey, we get asked all the time to make another click and point adventure game. Who works at Double Fine? It's Tim Schafer and what's the other guy's name? Real quick. Crap. I cannot. Ron Gilbert. That's it. Ron Gilbert. Thank you so much, Freestyle Coder. Tim Schafer, Ron Gilbert. If you go back and look at all of your adventure game point and click love, one of them or both of them did that. That's basically, that's Maniac Mansion, that's Day of the Tentacle, that's Monkey Island, like that's just crazy. Crazy stuff that, it's, these two guys are at the same company. And they're not making point-and-click adventure games anymore because, you know, it's 2012, you know, fuck it.
It's not really the
nobody does
thing.
And so he basically does this video, and the video is hilarious. It is great to go watch the, which I'll have a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes, and watch the video because Tim Schafer's style is awesome, and he's just weird, funny, and it's great. And he explains how, like, you know, fans come up to me all the time, and they're like, when are you gonna make another point-and-click adventure? I'd really love to play one, and you're the master. And he goes, that's fine, but no publisher will fund that game because they don't believe it's gonna sell. So what we're gonna do is see if I can do this without a publisher. We're going to see if we can fund our game by the community on Kickstarter. And now, okay, so indie game studios have been using Kickstarter for a while. This is not news. We've talked about this in the past. So Cthulhu Saves the World is a great successful example of he did a great Kickstarter and exceeded his $25,000 goal, was it? 30,000?
I don't even
somewhere around
remember.
there. He exceeded that to about 60,000, I believe, to port Cthulhu Saves the World to Windows, and then that helped get him like on Steam and all of this stuff, and it was wonderful, and it was fan supported. So indies have been using this a little bit, some hit or miss. You know, there's a knack to it, which I think it's a good episode one day. At some point, I'm going to sit down and just build a database of all the Kickstarters and kind of like play with it in the numbers and kind of use some of my BI routines and then have some thoughts on like what makes a good Kickstarter and what doesn't, what are the common attributes and whatnot. And I'm not the first one to do that. There's been articles that have done that.
Yeah.
So Tim put it up there and said, hey, I need $400,000. I need $300,000 to make the point-and-click game, and then I need $100,000 to film a documentary of the point-and-click game. And I will, a no-holds-barred documentary. You will see everything that a pro-level studio, Double Fine, goes into to make a game. And I want to see the documentary more than the game, honestly. That seems like some awesome, interesting shit. Within 8 hours, it was funded 100%. $400,000 within 8 hours. And a day later, it's like $1 million fucking dollars. Now it's 1.5. I think it's going to be. It's already broken all the records of the completed projects. There's a couple incomplete funding projects that have like 1 million, 1.2 million that haven't wrapped up funding yet. But I think it's going to be the biggest. They're almost done, though.
Yeah.
This has 31 days left to go, and it's already at 1.5 million. Now, if you pay $15, you get the game and access to the documentary. If you pay $30, you get the game, HD downloads of the documentary, and the soundtrack. And it might be DRM free or something too. I don't know. There's definitely a reason for paying $30. Like I'm tempted to go like pay $30 because it's like wanting to be a part of like history.
Yeah.
And that's where we're talking about right now of like, why is this history? Why is this game changing? What makes it special over the other indie games that have been funded? Because truth be told, Double Fine could have gotten funded for their game. They're Double Fine. They're releasing crazy awesome games all the time. They're doing, you know, all this interesting stuff. And yeah, publishers don't want that. Okay? Publishers don't want to publish a click and point adventure game. But Double Fine could have said, look, we'll do the game you want, but you gotta fund the game we want to do after this, or something. And it's $300,000, or we'll set $200,000, and we'll do our little thing, and then we'll do your next game, or we'll sign a 3-game deal or something. They have the clout and the following,
That it would be worth it.
that, yeah, I mean, so, like, in recent years, Heavy Metal, no, what was it? Not Heavy Metal, Brutal Legend. Brutal Legend was kind of a miss, but I kind of enjoyed the first half of that. Like, it was cool Double Fine humor and Double Fine style and that. But if you read some of the background to that, they have inside of Brutal Legend the blueprints for all the games that they're making. Brutal Legend fails because it's this massive game that can't decide what it wants to be. It's part rhythm game, it's part real-time strategy game, it's part first-person action game, it's all of these things, and it kind of loses itself as it grows, okay? The thing is, the guys at Double Fine say, well, basically we built that because these are our engines now. and that we can take these out and we can make an action game. We can make a rhythm game. We have all this stuff built, and they're executing on it really well. Also, crazy stuff like they did the Happy Action Theater. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
It's a Kinect, quote unquote, game. It's like a Kinect Tech demo, but it turns the floor into hot lava. Like, you just see your living room, and you're there, and all of a sudden the floor is hot lava. And you can splash in the hot lava and kick it around. You can, like, dive underneath the hot lava and jump up, and it'll be a little lava explosion. And then you'll have, like, hot lava hands. You can just throw lava at your friends and stuff like that. And there's, like, a Godzilla mode where you're crushing buildings and swatting planes. And it's just stupid Kinect stuff. It's just like, yeah, you just want to do stupid Kinect stuff. That's fun. There's no game to it. There's no score. Right? You're just doing stupid stuff with the Kinect, and
Because
that's
you
fun.
have a Kinect.
And, it's like, you don't have to log in, you don't have to sign in. It can identify 6 people at once, so if you just walk on the screen, you're playing, you walk off, you're not, it's just party, fun game,
This is a dream.
That's what Double Fine does. So, these guys could have been funded. They really wanted to fund it.
Yeah.
They could have done it. Hell, they could have bankrolled it themselves. Hell, Notch, right before this, was tweeting about wanting to bankroll a Psychonauts 2 with Double Fine.
Like, he would give them so much money. I remember seeing something about that.
Yeah. And they were serious. Like, he contacted them. He's like, I'm not joking. And they're like, well, maybe we're not joking. Let's talk. And they had a discussion. Of course, Notch tweeted, like, he has the worst timing in the world because they were launching this thing. So obviously, he's like, well, when they're done with that one, then
we'll talk.
Then we'll talk about that. But what been beaten all around the bush. What makes this major is they could have been funded, and they went this route, and every studio, we're not talking indies now, is waking up going, why the fuck are we messing with the publisher? You got THQ, right? THQ, Saints Row the Third, major popular, game of the year, crazy successful, wonderful, high fives all around, guys. Big screen TVs, bitches for everyone. Let's party. Okay? Break out the crystal. But, put it all back away. We lost money this quarter, guys. THQ lost, I think, the net loss was 100 million, or 100 million was, no, 30, I think was 30 million was their loss. They have 40 million in operating capital to give you a relationship of that money. Like, 40 million is what they have in the bank. So when they lose 30, it's big. Big deal.
Yeah.
Laying people off. Tighten the hatches, batten down, because they created this Wii Draw tablet. Now, this is like a Wacom tablet for, started out for the Wii. We have one. Yeah, you can grab it. Willie bought it for it. And it was somewhat popular on the Wii. So, they doubled down on this little thing. Here, hand it over, I'll get a good video close-up of it. And... yeah, push that pin back in so it doesn't like fall out.
I think it's in.
Okay. Yeah. So
I look at something like this and wonder, like,
errors. This
Mario
is the kind
Paint
of stuff.
made sense.
This is the kind of stuff that, like,
because Photoshop wasn't.
Yeah, this is like, all right, this is an add-on. This is an accessory. 5% of the market buys it. Whatever. You got the little pen, the little tablet, some buttons. It's not a tablet in the sense there's a UI screen here. This is just a touch-sensitive screen that then registers on the console. They did it for Wii. It was somewhat successful, and then they're like, all right, we're going to double down on this big. We're going to make this for PS3 and Xbox. And it's like, look, I could have told you the audience of the Wii is not the same audience of the Xbox or the PS3. People own multiple consoles. The market who bought the Wii Draw tablet aren't going to buy a second one for their Xbox. You're done. You did your thing. They doubled down on it big. They basically, long story short, they have 1.4 million Wii Draw tablets in a warehouse.
Wow.
And they're exploring alternate distribution methods to get rid of them. Like Giant Bomb said, like, you'll
burying
see
them in a
well, they won't. Yeah,
next to the ET cartridges,
and like that. They try to get away with that, but like you go into the gas station with that $5 DVD rack, and there's some Wii Draw tablets on that. Like
Speaking of ET, I've
sad.
seen it in the store. It sells for $10. Don't ask me why that sucker is $10.
because it's legendary.
I played it for you. I showed it to you, and I beat the game. I kind of
You already had it.
Also, kind of liked it.
I did. I kind of thought it was kind of cool.
I shaking my fist at.
I think maybe that's like an age thing. Like younger people are like, I don't understand why kids these days played stuff like E.T. and stupid.
Yeah.
And we were like,
I mean, it was a commercial.
That was all
flop.
we had to play.
It was a commercial flop, I guess. But anyway, so if you're at THQ and you're the publisher, or you're the studio team inside the publisher that was doing Saints Row, who's now tightening belts because the publisher did this other thing, and you're watching Double Fine over here raise $1.5 million, you're like, why the fuck do we need this publisher? Because we're getting laid off, and we just, like, turned in Game of the Year. And this is a story over and over again. L.A. Noire comes out, layoffs. You know, EA's closing studios in Vancouver and shit, and 270 people got laid off at some other company. I don't even know where, but there's been a lot
sure
of...
Kickstarter would be as risky as trying to get funding, like the issues that THQ ran into, but at least it's not subject to the whim of a publisher. You know, like... The Wii Draw sounded good on paper, I'm sure. Sounded good in the boardroom.
So there would be a studio that, like, oh, well, we fucked up.
But, you know, if you don't get funded on Kickstarter,
then you get the pretty good idea of the market.
Since I've got one of the Wii Draw tablets, though, I'm going to hook it up with XNA and see if it registers, and you can get data out of it and use it like a tablet or PC. Because I really think it's like going to become like a QCat. Like, do you remember the QCats?
No.
The QCats are the cat-shaped scanner that they used to give away, and then they would sell QCat codes, barcodes, in the magazines.
I vaguely remember that.
And now it's become like a geek trophy. Like, it's worthless. They had to get rid of thousands and millions of these stupid things.
You can hack it to do other things.
But yeah, you can hack it because it's basically a scanner. And before we had phones that were doing the scanning, it was a cool way to have a barcode reader. My dad uses it to barcode read and encode all of his DVDs because the DVD catalog software has like, oh, you have a QCat. It's serial. It's not even USB. It's freaking serial, you know? It's like, yeah, we'll support the QCat, you know? Hook it up. You got a free scanner, and you know, Dad loves it. He indexes all his DVDs on the computer with it. So I'm like, this Wacom tablet's going to become like the next gen QCat of like, I got one of the Wii Draw tablets, you know? Check it out. It works with this stupid little app. But yeah, I would kind of see if I can get it hooked up and, you know, I don't know what it would take to do like an actual driver level thing to where it could be like a tablet UI interface so that apps would recognize I have a tablet.
I wonder if it does all the fancy tablet stuff like pressure sensitivity and all that.
Somehow I doubt it. But
yeah, I really doubt that too.
You got two triggers, you got two thumbsticks and two triggers. It's got the inputs.
I think my brother bought this one for $40. That's software and tablet and everything.
Yeah.
That's less than the price of a game.
I imagine it's coming down, too, now that it's after Christmas.
Yeah. And that was another thing they said in their earnings call. Like, most of them, they had to move at discounted prices.
Yeah.
Like, originally, it was a $60 thing, and then they had to sell at $40.
I imagine, though, this particular Kickstarter project is kind of it's something of an outlier. Not 100%, but it has the difference of being an adventure game, which... Yeah, like, I miss the King's Quest series. It would be cool to see something, you know, like that come back. It's something that the industry is not providing. At the same time, I don't think it's something that, marketed in a different way. I don't know that people would have latched on to this extent.
While we've been talking, Dylan, they've made another $3,000.
Is what it is. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not going to make $3,000. There's nothing I can do to make $3,000
in that about 5 minutes. Yeah. So, Dylan, what would you do if you were curious about like the rate of money that they were making?
I guess I would get a stopwatch and hit the F5 key a bunch.
And then, maybe when you have your monkey with the stopwatch and hitting F5 a bunch, you'd want him to report to you.
Yes,
these increases.
If only there were.
And probably like an easy, convenient method that you could just subscribe to. So we took a monkey and a stopwatch and hooked him up to Twitter. So you guys live on the site, you can go hit this right now. We're still setting it up, and it might have a kink or two as it bakes in overnight. But you can go to Twitter. Tim Just Raised is the Twitter account. And we've set up a little hourly bot that's going to let you know, like the latest tweet is letting you know in the last 60 minutes, Tim of Legend raised $7,179. What did you do? So jump on that. We'll probably get the rest of the profile and the account figured out. We just kind of hacked together and threw that up to get that going before the show. And, I want to let it burn in overnight before I do a whole lot of tweeting. But I am kind of curious. Like, I kind of want to subscribe to this account just to, like, watch how much they, keep raising. Like, what's the, 1.5 million in a few days. Like, does this peter out or just go insane? Because they have 30 days left. They have, like, 32 days, 31 days. It's insane the amount of time that they have left. And so what I'm curious to see is what studios follow and when and how do those go. If 2 or 3 studios follow and they see success, fucking singularity. Like, it's done, it's over. It's like, we'll be the fastest industry to shed the retail publisher model and go digital.
Yes.
Because the content creators just divorce themselves from the publishers.
And these are games that, they can still sell through normal channels, Steam, things like that. They're, they don't need publishers to get into that. But
it'll change publishers around. I don't think
it will kill it, because I don't think...
Well, I think publishers will... there's probably a lot of people, senior execs at publishers, that lost their weekends. They're going to be meeting at the CEO's house this weekend, not able to leave until they come out with a list of, like, how they're going to keep their studios from leaving.
Yeah.
What's the right... risk assessment, what studios are probably going to leave. If they do leave, what do we do? All hands on deck. But
I think unless... It
might change some things to where studios have to give more back.
Yes.
Like, don't fucking own the IP. Where the publishers come in and the publishers say, yeah, we publish your game and we own your IP. Studio, we're going to own your IP after this and say who makes sequels and who owns this and what they do with it, And, like the whole Treyarch and Respawn and all of that mess, of like, yeah, we're going to take this and we just want this game out yearly. So we're going to give this to this other thing, and we're going to market the shit out of your thing to death till nobody cares anymore about your product. Just squeeze every last drop of blood we can from your dream. They might have to relent on that, and it might have to be more of publishers perform a distribution and a marketing role for a game. They can provide funding and backing for a game, not necessary with this new world, and they're going to have to. This could usher in the era where they have to get in line with the services they provide. And
I think it won't. I don't think it'll be a complete new world. I think what you'll see is more niche titles go this way, like your Call of Duties, things like that. They're still going to go through publishers because they can.
Think of the brain drain. Think of Cliffy B.
Yes.
Right? The man behind Gears of War. And like, he's not getting his jollies off of having to go in and fight for his design, and I've got this fucking Gears of War 3, and like, I'm ending this, and I'm ending my story arc, and they're like, no, don't kill him. We want to have a fuller possibility, and we need to tie in the iPhone sales, and we need to do this. It's like, no, this is Gears of War. I'm not going to go on an iPhone. This is not that game. No. We've done some market study, Cliff.
People will buy Gears of War.
Yeah. And by the way, Cliff, we own the IP, so fuck you. We're going to give it to this Zynga studio or something over here.
And making money.
Yeah, and they're going to do Gears of Warville or something with friends. I don't know. It's got a
if they don't get the
Cliff.
If they don't get the IP, they'll be making War of Gears anyway. So
Yeah, and so Cliff might go, yeah, fuck it, and then Cliff pops up on there like, hey, I started a new studio, Cliff and the Bees. It's got a little bee icon, little happy bee icon there.
I got the same person who designed the logo for Prince.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I'm doing another game. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. That's basically what Tim Schafer said. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing a game. It's going to be a point-and-click adventure. Should be awesome. You want it? And they'd be like, Cliff Bazinking. I'm Cliff Bazinking. Gears of War 3, bitch. I got a new idea. I got a game I really want to make. Cliff Bazinski tells me, I got a game I really want to make. Holy shit, I want to play that game. I don't give a fuck what it is. Like, a man that talented and that visionary says, I have a game that I want to make, and I don't know if it's going to be popular or anything, but it's just a game that I have to make. It's like Red State with Kevin Smith. When Kevin Smith goes like, I got this film nobody will fund, it's a horror movie, I have to make it. I'm like, holy shit, dude. I have to see this movie.
There is a counterexample. Daikatana.
True.
I mean, that's my point. Like,
there's the run off the rails.
It's going to be like we're going to have to see what's the success rate. How many of these sort of projects can the market
and John
handle?
Romero can put his tail between his legs and wander back to EA of like, okay, guys, my idea not so hot.
Well,
but I do know how to run the team and put together and ship all of this, so I should be in charge.
Well, exactly. Like every publisher's or every game designer is going to have hits and misses. So
But meanwhile, American Gee's off there going, fucking Dark Alice in Wonderland. Yeah. Check this shit out.
Like I said, I think it remains to be seen what the effect is, but overall, I think it's positive.
GA Tech grad would gladly play Gears of Warville with friends.
I would too.
But I shouldn't say it.
All right.
I was going to say, like, those games are just so addictive. It's like, I don't care what it is. I just,
Let's attempt to get on track here, and we did not meet goal, but whatever.
No.
I'm linking to... It's a good blog. I kind of like this blog, The Bottom Feeder. I've become a fan of this. The guy founded Spiderweb Software, and he posts a lot of cool stuff I found. And I'm using his post to key off for our topic. This is really where the idea came from, of feedback. And his post basically is talking about Dungeons & Dragons' recent, hey, audience, hey, fans, tell us how you play your game so we can make an awesome D&D 5 based on your feedback.
Well, the issue, of course, the setup here is that 3rd edition was more or less true to classic D&D. 4th edition comes along. It's trying to be more of an MMO.
Well, back up a little bit of that. So you have 1st edition.
Right.
And you have a backlash to 1st edition. There's some Tolkien people pissed off. B, a whole bunch of parents are pissed off. And a whole bunch of backlash. And so you have this 2nd edition, which ran for a really long time. And it's actually the edition in the rule set that I know most. Yeah. That was really defanged a lot to lessen those concerns, and certain things were removed. Like I don't think there's like vampires in 2nd edition and stuff like that. Like there were certain like dark elements and demonry and all that kind of stuff was pulled out.
Oh, they changed some of the names.
And they toned it down. They changed names and all that.
It became a brighter, almost happier place.
In the 90s, actually no, in the beginning of the early 2000s.
Yeah, it was late 90s,
early 2000s. It's like, hey, D&D's becoming vogue again, and we're going to just dive back in, and you know what? Fuck y'all are adults. We're going back to 1. We're going to take the improvements in rule sets in 2, the stylistic designs of 1, and all of that. We're going to undo the defanging, put the fangs back in, and you know what? I kind of like 3rd edition. 3.5.
I was going to say, the defanging, it wasn't... There were some things I think they did that... I mean, this was after Hasbro bought Wizards, so it almost... I didn't have that much experience with... I had a little experience, tiny amount with 2nd edition, none at all with 1st edition.
These are overarching statements.
Yeah.
Overarching.
I was going to say, 3rd actually made it feel... that they tried to present the air of, hey, this is a normal activity.
Now, in 4th... I want to say in 4th, they MMO'd it.
Yes, that's exactly
they computer RPG'd it. But I think they did a good thing in that they made it approachable to a much larger audience.
Yes.
Because it's like, you understand these mechanics from your MMOs and your computer games, so we're going to get in line with that.
Well, I think...
And, like, old D&D guys, like, I like my saving throws. I don't want, I want all this extra, counter and roll for initiative on every fight, and, can you, all this, like, a lot less dice rolling going on. And a simplified rule set, deeper world. So basically, you have a simpler rule set, a much larger spectrum of the world. Right? I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say,
third edition?
Fourth.
Fourth edition.
Yeah, fourth edition.
I wouldn't necessarily say deeper rule set.
I think the world...
No, shallower.
Shallower, okay.
Yeah, so maybe it's not less deep. Larger world.
Okay.
Larger area to explore, more types of characters, more specializations, more places to go than you ever had before. More options, mixed, specialties and things like that at the different levels, and taking on a secondary specialization, all that kind of stuff. More options. More stories and quests and background stuff than they'd ever had before. Especially when they started updating all of the old stuff for the new stuff. When they just started going back and like, Tomb of Horrors is updated, bam, there you go. It's just crazy. Crazy, approachable, but like the volume of books, like how thick the monster manual is, again, I'm coming from the second edition guy who vaguely started paying attention when third edition came back out, but it was like you had two fucking books. You had a player handbook and you had a DM handbook, and that really covered you.
With
really were done.
Fourth edition, they explicitly, they were trying to go with a digital model because they had the character builder, and they had some other tools that they promised that never really panned out. But also, they explicitly said, we're going to release a player's handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual every year. A new one. PHP 1, PHP 2, PHP 3, etc., etc.
And then worlds for everywhere you could possibly imagine.
Well, there were issues. Some people had issues with the way Forgotten Realms was done. They brought back things like Dark Sun. It's always hit or miss when a new edition comes out. I will say that I don't remember them explicitly doing this, but the default setting for third edition was Greyhawk. That was an established campaign setting. Mm-hmm. Fourth edition, they didn't really provide that. It was just very...
for fourth edition are started out primarily in about the same place.
Okay.
And then as they re-released each of the books, you had the Dark Sun encounter, you had the Forgotten Realms encounter. The Forgotten Realms book is thick now.
Yeah, well, that's the Forgotten Realms is second edition Origins, and that's the one that ran forever. Second edition is like 20, 25 years. Like, it has, so...
Yeah, and, to be fair, at this point, to keep D&D going at the level they're doing, they have to keep releasing more books. It's kind of...
Yeah, you do that. Anyway, this is all background, and we're getting off topic of the feedback question. So, they basically said for the 5th edition, okay, community, how do you play your games? And Penny Arcade has, like, a great comic of, like, everybody gives a different response. Of, like... Yeah, we don't use the dice or the rule book or any of that stuff, and just, it's more like a fantasy fiction meetup. And, like, the next guy is like, we roll nothing but wolves or something, or rats or something like that. Like, we play all rats. That's all we do. And then, like, the girl is like, I run a adult sex venture with, my group or something like that. And then, of course, like, the guy is representing D just like has this perplexed look on the last frame of like, well, fuck. Because you can't do anything with that data.
Yes.
And that's the point that we're getting to here with feedback. And the D&D is the kind of one that ginned that up and put it to the forefront. When you go out and you ask for player feedback, okay, there's some people that like, don't even bother. Don't even bother. Go in, have a strong design, have a motif, and follow your design, and go by your gut, because when you design by committee, it becomes a mess, which is really what feedback is. My thing for the indie developers is that feedback is highly valuable, but you need a decoder ring, okay? So this is kind of like what Henry Ford said. If I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have told me fast horses. We want faster horses. Nobody would have said I wanted a car. right? Because people can only think of in terms of what they know. So you as a designer have to tease out faster horses from problem is speed, right? And then like, okay, I'm going to solve problem speed. This is what Apple does. You know, they're going to tease out what the problems are from the actual implementations and not listen to people where they say, well, what I really need is an extra button on my device that does this. No. Your problem is it's too hard to do that task. And so you want a special thing to do that task. You do that task all the time. But what you really need is to find out the fucking weather faster. Or you need to check in your Foursquares quicker. Or you need to hit the web and read, text, all that. What you don't need is a whole bunch of goddamn whole browser experience. Like the mobile browsers before iPhone came along were trying to do the exact damn desktop render. And they didn't take it of like, no, you just need to look up some shit and get to the web and we're gonna fuck plugins. We're gonna rethink this, come at that model. So the art of fun in game design, the book that I've referenced several times, goes a lot into its chapters of understanding when people say this, they mean that. Okay? When people say this game is boring, it's not challenging enough. I understand this pattern. I've seen it before. Okay? If people play your shoot 'em up, you made a standard shump, and they go, yeah, this is boring, it doesn't do anything for me. It's because your shoot 'em up is just a straight shoot 'em up, and it's not doing anything new or unexpected. I've seen this before. It doesn't interest me. So solve that problem. But all you're going to hear is, you're not going to hear like, it should do something special. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it has like a special, hook or anything to it. It's like, yeah, it's boring. I don't know. I lost interest. That's what you'll hear. When you hear, these controls are frustrating. What they're saying, you've broken convention, right? I know which camera, stick moves. I know that I should have my Y inverted. I know that this should move the player. I know that this is the jump button, and it's always the jump button. And when you put these things out of place, you may have a good reason. We thought we did. That doesn't matter. The player is going to tell you the controls are broken on this game. The controls are difficult on this game. I don't like that the controls are messed up, right? And what they're really telling you is you've deviated. You've broken from convention. So that's really, like, you got to go out and you got to seek feedback. And you want to seek feedback from people outside of your circle. Like, get a conference room. Or something. Get a space, take your Xbox to that space, and get random people to come in and play the game. Like just, hey, guys, give you a free cookie, come play the game for a little bit. Let me just tape your result, and play that. You really don't want a bunch of friends, because friends are going to be honest with you. You don't want a bunch of other developers, because developers are going to play the same way you do. They're not going to be gamer feedback. They're developers. They think like developers. They play like developers. They've also overanalyzed games like you have, and so what they find fun is not what the mainstream may find fun. It's like they're looking for esoteric things that they've never seen before, or nods to other games that people won't pick up on, and that kind of thing. And I think that is my statement advice on feedback. I think that's what
the interesting thing, especially that I took away from like all the stuff I've heard about this D&D 5th edition, is at some point when you're talking to all these different groups of people, you have to understand that the game you come away with will necessarily be opinionated. You can't necessarily please everyone. And especially as it relates to D&D, 3rd edition was very much an open-ended tool set for DMs, to use, and for players to use to build whatever they want. 4th edition, what?
Finish.
4th edition is very streamlined. It's got tools that make it easy for DMs and players to plan encounters. And the problem you run into, and they're, from what I've heard, they're trying to solve this by kind of making a modular system. And they have a special case where they're building like the industry standard pen and paper role-playing game. But you kind of have to take that feedback and figure out, which niche you're going to fall into a lot of times, because if you try to make a toolbox that's too streamlined, it's neither going to be a good streamlined game nor a good toolbox game. If you try to make a pen and paper RPG that's too streamlined, there's nothing you can do to kind of balance that out and make it also a good toolbox.
And the danger is in soliciting feedback. If you're not strong in your design, the feedback is going to guide you to the middle.
Yes.
And it's going to please no one.
Right.
It's going to upset both sides, and you really have to pick your side and have your design. And you need to know how to filter the feedback that's good for you and exclude the feedback that's not what you're going to do.
And incidentally, like 4th edition, given when and how this news has come out, I think that this is kind of a response to like, there's a lot of people who have strong feelings against this. We kind of have to go back to the drawing board. It didn't play out the way we thought. Let's try something different.
Or
from the
the blog
I've heard people do, because they've done a lot of playtesting, and I know some people who have played it, and you can play from whichever rule set you are most comfortable with. So if you do wish to not recognize that 4 ever happened, you can still play with people who want to play 4th edition.
Jeff Vogel, the guy,
they may pull
the
it
blog
off.
that I was talking about, he points out at the end that he doesn't even believe they're actually soliciting feedback. It's a marketing stunt. It's something that's coming from the marketing department of like, yes, the next version incorporated all of the other stuff. Because he's like, you don't get to be lead designer of the next edition of Dungeons and Dragons without having proven your shit and have a good, strong idea of where it needs to go. Like, that doesn't happen. You don't get up there and be wishy-washy guy of, like, all that. It's like, this is probably and should be a good, like, run this poll, bring in the playtesters, all of that. I may take something from that, but I have a good idea of where it's going.
They are opening it. The fact that they are opening it up to more playtesting is a good sign. I mean, it's not necessarily as closed as it was. And they're also bringing Monty Cook back in, who did 3rd edition, so, that's a good sign.
But I think 4th edition did really well for them. I mean, we've kind of drifted into D&D topic and not talking about feedback, but
it's a game design topic. I mean, I think it's interrelated.
I like some of 4th edition when they made it where I have to be online for all the updates.
Oh yeah, like
because it used to be you download this app and it runs this, and then we push updates to you as soon as you log back in. Just like now, we're not going to really support that, but you can keep that if you want.
You know why they did that? I bet.
Do I need to cancel that Wizards of the Coast thing? Or...
No.
I'm betting they did that because there were a lot of people I know who pirated that app without a subscription.
I went ahead and grabbed a subscription. Just because I didn't want to go through when I was playing. The little I played in 4th edition, I didn't want to sit down and do all my character creation pen and paper, and I like the app. And I like how the app just kind of like filtered out the relevant to what I've picked, and I didn't miss anything. It's like TurboTax. It's like, you go in there and like, oh, well, because you picked this deity, you can actually get this feat. But I wouldn't have got that if I tried to rush through the character book, because, like, that would be in the deities section, not in the warrior section.
Right.
And I would have never realized I could have had that feat.
I think their game design actually was built around the fact that they expected people to use the app. Because if you look at creating a 4th edition character, gameplay is simpler, but all the calculations that you have to remember to do in character creation, they kind of expect you to have something that will automatically do them for you. And like I said, I like both 3rd and 4th for different reasons, for different types of campaigns, and it's it's an example of where being opinionated actually helps, because let's face it, if you're doing a game, you're not going to be in the position of D&D where you have this one game and it is it. Like, this is the thing that you're going to be creating, you're going to be maintaining for years and years to come. Like, most indie game developers put out a string of games, so you can bounce between either extreme.
And you can even iterate upon one design across several games. Like, and then you have to be direct sequels, like Cthulhu Saves the World, A Breath of Death. I mean, it's an improved engine,
right?
And it's sharing a lot of the same code and design between the two. But there's you can definitely feel an evolutionary step between the two. The designer kind of figured out what worked and what worked for him.
Yeah.
Like, he had feedback on Breath of Death, and then, he applied it correctly and decoded it correctly for that. Again, I'll plug, the art of fun for a good section in there. Now, I watched the latest extra credits, the mailbag number 4, and he answered a question of what books to read. So I have queued all of those up as books that I need to read. So I'm probably going to get those and start trying to burn through and read those so I can talk more about those in the podcast. Because my game dev books have been randomly chosen based upon, like, I bumped into so-and-so and they knew this book, so I grabbed that one, and, like, to have somebody, like the guys behind Extra Credits, say, like, here's 5 books. That's huge. And, of course, I never heard of any of those 5 books, so, and they were all fairly recent titles. They were all pretty, not some of the older ones, like I've been reading, but, if they have stuff and feedback, I'll definitely, bring that up and on future podcasts. Before we shut down and, get out of here, anything happening in chat? It seems to slow down a whole lot. I don't know if we've dropped people again by the end of the show.
The viewers looks like dropped, but I don't think it's showing a lot of...
Somebody was saying, like, the stream dropped a couple times, and I wish I, had better control over that. We can try moving it back to Justin TV. I don't know if they'll let us, honestly.
Oh, from Twitch TV?
Yeah, because they kind of forced us to Twitch TV with that, but I wanna check into that or something. And then, like, I think Giant Bomb is using Twitch TV too on their live broadcast page. So I kind of want to, like, tease out some of the code and see if I can't see, like, what are they doing for codecs and things like how are their settings going, and maybe there's some secret there. I love the way they have the chat embedded on their page. That's really good. I don't know if the chat is their own chat and they're just disregarding the Just TV chat, or if it's just TV chat that they've tied into, because they have their own logins on their site, so it may be their own chat system that they developed or something. But it would be interesting to get that working on our system as well.
Yeah, get a little more reliable, hopefully.
And do that. So I think we're wrapped up here. This has been another episode of GameMarx. I want to thank everyone for tuning into the live show. Thanks for everyone for listening to the podcast. Once again, while we've been doing that and talking, Tim Schafer up another couple thousand there. So keep going, Tim. That Twitter account is TimJustRaised. TimJustRaised. You want to go ahead and follow that and watch through the weekend how much he raises there. Go ahead and do it. All right, we're out. Till next week, everyone.